Now's the
Okay.
time to defer which items you want to defer.
We need to defer an old business A and old business B to the January meeting.
Okay. So, motion to defer?
So moved.
Okay. So we'll move those to the January, we'll defer those to the January meeting. Item 3 then is approval of the minutes from the November 13th, 2014 Finance Review Committee meeting. Motion to approve the minutes? Everybody get a copy, I'm sure.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Yep, all right, we'll approve the minutes.
Oh, I think we had to vote then.
Oh, all in favor? All opposed? Now it's approved. And then item number 4 then will be the CFO report on current finances.
Okay, I want to tell you right up front that there are 2 errors in the written portion, and I will point them out, and I will have these corrected for the BOC packets and also for what's going on to the website. If you look down on the revenue section where it says 2913 came in under 2913, that should be 2828. And if you look on expenditures, where it says 19557, that should be 21072.
21072.
And like I said, I apologize. I was here till 11 last night, and I highlighted it to change, and it didn't happen. So, and I overlooked it today while I was working. As far as what I've done, I'm kind of excited. Now, this is not in this report, but I did pass my last CMFO class, and so I will be certified by the state as a certified municipal finance officer, and it was a lot of fun getting that certification, and I've learned enough to know I've got a lot to learn.
Well, congratulations.
We're very proud, we're very proud of it. We really are.
We'll just go, I guess, sitting here looking, I don't think there's anything really that needs to be jump out as far as procedures and meetings and education. I did attend a very scary, for lack of a better word, workshop at the tail end of November, put on by local gov. It was about the Affordable Care Act. And, it was just, I don't think anybody really knows what's going on or what's going to happen, but I know we're all going to pay some sort of price. So we're just don't know how much. But anyway, going into revenues, as I stated earlier, in November, we came in $2,828 under projections at $400,112. We bumped our projections on our sales tax numbers across the board during anticipating to be higher in November than they were. That was our major discrepancy. As you see in the numbers, that's almost $27,000 of our projections that we didn't meet. And my only answer is people have not been purchasing goods and services as much as we thought they would at this point. I don't really have an answer of why this occurs. We discussed the minimum business tax. It continues to come under projections, as we've stated the last 2 months. The change in billing or filing periods is cause, we're expecting a pretty big payment in January. Our court fines and fees, this continues to come in under projections, and it's the same thing. We feel like people are just driving much safer and much slower in our town, and our tickets are not like they have been in the past. As far as expenditures, they came in $21,072 over projections at $416,565. We had our engineering and landscaping services came in $9,448 over projections. This line item is really hard to project. We projected it out evenly over 12 months, and as of year to date, we're over projections by $274. So we're not, as far as year to date, we're in line. Printing and property tax came in $1,463 over projections. This line item was projected in a different month, so for the year we're in good shape at $37 under projections. Property and liability insurance, this is another projection issue. We came in $11,892 over projections, but for the year, well, just to give you an idea, when we originally did our projections, we projected 76% of our property and liability insurance to be paid by now. I negotiated quarterly payments, which skews this. So year-to-date numbers are $42,976,000 under projections. Fire equipment came in $11,529 over projections. This line item was projected heavy in the back end than is reality. They bought more equipment quicker than we anticipated. Year-to-date numbers are $5,706 over projections, but this line item should even out with projections as the year progresses. We did have traffic signal maintenance came in $1,515 over projections. This line item projected $500 in December and $500 in June. The city corrected looping issues at the Walmart light and the Highway 96 I-40 light, which the city manager and street director considered necessary. Hopefully this line item will stay at $515 over projections for the year. Machinery and equipment for the drug fund came in at $6,859 over projections. This is due to purchase of the new drug dog. This line item is in good shape. For the year, we're under projections almost $4,000. Year to date, we are right where we thought we'd be, Miss Donna. We, as of November 30th, our projections were $1,852,000, $1,852,569. We've received $782,732 for a shortfall of $68,837. Expenditure projections were $2,238,572, and the city has spent $2,161,378, with a year-to-date spending under projections of $77,194. So if you combine the revenue and expenditures, we are $8,357 ahead of where we thought we'd be at this point in time. That is my report. I've got a spreadsheet here. I believe I've gone over everything multiple times. I believe the only error is in those two that in the written. If you run the numbers and see one, by all means, give me a shout. But I have run them and run them. Everything. I'm sorry.
I do have a question.
Yes.
The light, maintenance, I don't believe Walmart's involved in this. This is all the expenditure for the Highway 96. There was something that went out as well as the loop that made it, that we could clarify this with Keith tomorrow because I questioned it.
See, I thought what I heard was that light at Walmart was staying on. In the late hours, they come out to fix it, and then
Right.
since they're out there, they just fix that one too.
Well, we had to pay for that one at a discounted price because they were fixing the one for Walmart. But the Walmart contractor is supposed to pay for the fixing of that one out at the Walmart site. We had something internally go wrong with that one out there, as well as the loop itself from a wreck that happened several years ago. So it's not been acting like it should, but while they were here, they're supposed to have given us a break out there. So, but as far as I know, and the Walmart contractor did tell me that he was taking care of paying for that at the Walmart site. So we just have to it's a clarification thing that we need to find out from Keith tomorrow. Here's a pen.
I got some here.
Are they yellow and red?
Well, those are black.
I'm on the green one. Okay, we'll clarify that with Keith
And we can
and,
report it back next month
okay.
on how that was actually. But
Or you
I was
correct it
told that the
before it's
Walmart
posted.
contractor actually was paying for the loop out at the Walmart site.
Okay, I'll ask him and then get it corrected tomorrow before I
Yeah,
send it out.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? I did want to say one thing, and I'm not trying to, I like these last two reports because I try to look for positives, because we've been extremely, as you see in my first paragraph of the written, well, maybe not the first paragraph, but it's in the last paragraph. November was extremely challenging cash flow wise. But if you look on the last two pages, as far as where we were last year at this time, we were, as revenues, we brought in $1,783,832. Last year at this time, we brought in $1,416,482. So we're $367,350 above where we were at the same time this time last year as far as revenue, what's come in. And then if you look on the next page on expenditures, we spent $2,161,378,000. At this same time last year, we spent $2,495,074 for a $333,696 less expenses this year than at the same time last year. So if you put them together, if you compare both of them, it's almost a $700,000 turnaround as far as habits and as far as revenue is picking up and expenditures are still holding. And when I was talking to Mr. Hall about this, I said, we really pulled on the reins hard starting about December, January of last year. So, that the expenditure gap, the expenditure gap should start to tighten because we really pulled back hard last year. But I'm hoping and I anticipate that the revenue gap is going to continue to widen. But for what it's worth, I think that's a positive.
Y'all worked hard. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Tom's the one that's worked hard. When he'd tell me something, I'd agree with him.
So it's all in your hands, is what he's saying.
I'll No, he needs to take a little credit.
It is a teamwork effort, you know, and,
Of all the employees.
yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And, so, that we're proud of, 'cause, they might look a little dejected sometime, but they know that, what we're faced with, and they do what they can to help us out.
Any more questions or discussions from Tom's report? We're gonna do move over to old business. We deferred A and B. So we'll move on to old business C, discuss and or take action on employee handbook policy manual, pages 1 through 23.
I'm at an advantage because I've talked to a few department heads. If y'all don't mind me starting, and then we'll go around, but or we can just take it at pages at a time. However y'all wanna do it. If we wanna do that, and anybody put any input, like I said, the goal is not to have it finalized tonight, it's just to get some input, and hopefully by March, we can have a much, a solid document to present to the board. I didn't see anything wrong with any of the letters. Did anybody? Any of the definitions or anything? Well, the definitions are later. Any of the contents or introduction. I think Mr. Hall wants to put something in introduction on expectations of how of treating the public and coworkers, and this, that, and the other thing. That might be a policy later on. And,
Well, I have some things on the welcome letter, but they're just,
grammatical, maybe.
yeah,
Okay.
I'll just give them to you and later.
Okay.
And it's
Okay.
not anything of substance. But on the definition of maternity leave for the purpose of providing time for female employees, I think we have to give the same time to fathers, don't we?
That has been updated, to my understanding, to include males as well. So, yes.
Do they get the same amount of maternity leave?
I think so, you can check into it, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's all set on a 4-month, 16-week timeframe for maternity leave.
4 months. What, say that again.
16 weeks, 4 months.
16 weeks, okay.
But I did notice that in the,
Of course, that could be, it's unpaid if they don't have the PTO for it,
Right.
but they can request FMLA for maternity leave, both
Okay.
of them.
correct.
Now, when did this happen? Has it been long? Have I
I think it's under
been down the right?
FMLA
The
rules.
FMLA maternity has, I think the male part of it for the maternity leave for Tennessee is a more recent change. But the FMLA maternity's been, I don't remember the exact date on it. It's been in place for a while.
Okay. But the male,
There's hours,
okay,
if you want to look at it as
okay,
an example.
okay.
And on the non-exempt employee, I'll question whether the police officers aren't they non-exempt? Or are they salaried?
The officers are non-exempt.
So how come they're not covered by this Fair Labor Standards Act? As far as overtime is concerned, where we would have to pay them overtime as opposed to giving them.
They are covered. It's the officers, I mean, not the officers, but the chief and the salaried employees, not the hourly officers.
Okay.
Is that-
Okay. I thought I read somewhere where we give comp time to the police officers.
I did read it, and that needs to be adjusted as well, according to Chief Harris. I mean, it's just to look into it.
Well, actually, here it only says time off from work in lieu of monetary payment for overtime worked. It must be defined over in the police department or something. Okay, that's the only well-known. On the probationary period, the definition is okay, but do we need to say that it's 90, I guess we say it's 90 day. We define it in the actual place, don't we?
Right, and it is, it's a year for the police and fire department, and every other full-time employee, it's 6 months, as
Okay.
right now.
On reprimand, a type of disciplinary action, oral or written, denoting a violation of personnel regulations, which becomes part of the employee's personnel record if written. If you give an oral warning to a person, don't you write it into their record? How else would you know that it took place?
I would think.
Yeah, you have to.
Yes, that would need to be documented as well. Yeah, you would want to document any verbal,
It just mark out the
Reprimand.
if written.
And,
Yes.
you know, really, basically, I should sign it as well as the employee.
correct.
In other words, if, let's just say a
You
police
can label
officer-
it oral,
Right,
but
yeah, but just say
Right.
the fire chief, I mean, the police chief gives a reprimand to one of his officers, he should bring it to me. And he sign off on it as well as as well as the employee.
Correct.
on regular, permanent, part-time employee, an individual that has been scheduled to regularly work 40 hours, that's not true. Less than 40 hours, should it be?
And see, I'm sketchy on all this regular, permanent, part-time. I'm not upped on what that is.
Well,
Yeah.
is it not, I'm sorry, like a part-time position, but they're not
They're assigned.
assigned a position for,
It's not like they come in when they want to or when you need them to. They have a regular scheduled part-time position.
so it should, I mean, really just part-time, but for some reason, that's,
I had one permanent part-time fireman. Turned out he was working this because he was filling in with other shifts, you know, when somebody was out sick, so he actually done pretty good as a permanent part-time
Well,
person.
see, I think this needs to,
right.
I think with the new healthcare reform, this is obsolete, in my opinion, because anybody that works over 30 hours or more, we're gonna have to offer insurance anyway.
Well, you wouldn't give a permanent part-time insurance. Is that what it's saying?
Yeah, the law is anybody that works over 30 hours.
Yeah, well, that is true, but you wouldn't, we're not offering a permanent part-time person insurance, are we?
No,
Okay,
but
yeah.
if they work
This is-
over 30 hours, we have to.
Yeah.
This probably should say regular scheduled part-time employee.
Permanent part-time.
Yeah, just for,
Yeah.
Yeah, and define what,
But it's got to be less than 30.
it would be less than 30 for the Healthcare Act. So it's up to you to set what is part-time
Yeah.
and what is not. So if you say anything below 30 hours is part-time, or anything below, normally, like a lot of companies will say 36 hours, anything below 36 hours is part-time.
Yep, you
And
have to
ours
have-
is 32.
Yeah, some are 32, yeah.
Yeah, but if they go over 30, you gotta offer them insurance.
Yeah, it's two separate issues, though.
Yeah, you may want to really look into that because I know with Williamson County Schools, they're having trouble with subs because they're only allowed to work 140 hours a month. It's not weekly, it's the month. And so, you know, that's something that y'all might want to clarify if there is a part-time employee that, you know, not to exceed whatever, you know,
Right.
weekly hour.
But we can't label them a part-time employee and
Well,
let
see,
them work
this is,
40.
I always thought this was a term that got you around having to, you got an employee to work 40 hours, but it got you out of having to pay them insurance. And I don't think by law, after
you can't do
January
that.
1st, it's gonna be obsolete.
Probably
What
not
we
even
used
worth
to do at
saying.
the
is it?
Tennessean for people who were labeled part-time is at the end of the year, we looked back, and if they averaged full-time hours, then the next year they were qualified for benefits, even if they then went to work in part-time. So they qualified a year late for their benefits, but, you know, that was a long time ago, so.
And I think now, I think we're gonna have to report monthly. I mean, I think they're gonna start tagging us monthly if our part-timers go
And
over 30.
fining us if we don't.
And that's how they're gonna.
you don't
pay-
offer it.
That's gonna have, that's how they're gonna pay for all this. is through-
So,
If you remember, we had one in Public Works when we first started that was working 40 hours but was considered part-time. So we had to change that, if you remember. We had to put him to where he was getting benefits and then had to then go ahead and declare him as a regular employee at that point in time.
so we really have to manage the part-time employees to see that they don't go to 30 hours.
Right.
And we probably should do it to 28 hours, just so we don't.
I put in here 29 when we get to it. But yeah. Any other definitions? And I think, you know, we really need to look at possibly taking that out.
Yeah, I think you may be right. It may not be necessary.
Terminal pay.
Is this a definition?
Yeah. Shouldn't it be termination pay? Terminal sounds
I know, that's what it's,
not
The
right.
same thing.
I don't see a problem with changing the verbiage. I think,
Yeah, termination pay.
Am I picky?
no, I looked at that when I was going through and I was like, ugh.
And do we have PTO and vacation leave?
PTO is just something of the fire department, and the reason they get that is because they have no holiday or, no holiday pay.
We probably need to add that to that PTO.
Okay, we're,
Back a page, I think, from where you're at.
personal time off.
Mark those changes as they get.
I have a pen. No.
And another reason for that is they work 24-hour on and a certain amount of hours off.
Actually, they're 48 on that and it's 4 days off.
Okay. And because of that time, they can't get a regular 80-hour week like everybody else.
Whatever holiday falls on their schedule, they got to work it.
Just like a regular day.
Yeah.
And I saw just on Article 4, just a couple little clerical
Page 9, Section C, 4, in determining personal service items in departmental budgets. I did not understand what that was for.
classification plan. I don't either.
Take it out.
Read that
As
again. Read that
The
again.
classification plan shall be used in determining personal service items in departmental budgets.
I don't see how that has anything to do with the budget. I just think that has to do with pay.
Personal services, though, I mean,
I don't see any problem.
Are they talking about job descriptions?
Would they be talking about within, let's say, the police department or fire department? Is there something that they would be, you know, something like personal service items or equipment that they would need that you would put in your classification, also to show pay and budget aspects? Is there, I don't know, I'm just asking, is there, you know, they may be resorting to
It might be
personal
referring
service
to-
items that they may need.
even uniforms or guns or,
And so that may be part, and I don't, again, I don't know,
you
look
might
through
check
all of your
with the fire chief.
classifications, but that's
Let's
probably
leave that
what
as a
those.
question mark and
yeah.
let us research that a little more.
Yeah.
Okay? When you mentioned, police department, some of them I've heard have bought guns, so that may be what that's alluding to, something of that nature.
And it may be written in your classifications or your job descriptions on what they're required to have. I don't know, so
Right.
look at that.
Now, since that referred back to 76 through 80, I actually went through that, but if nobody else did, we won't.
I mean, is there anything, I mean, I didn't.
I didn't yet. No.
Okay, we'll just cover that when it comes, when we get to it.
I had an issue on 12. I think this should be where it said not including alcohol. I think it should be including alcohol because it is in discrepancy with down here in the alcohol drug testing policy. But I don't know if that's a typo or do you understand that?
Do we
Is-
actually test for alcohol?
Well, you could, if they, I don't know what's on that test.
I guess Roy's gonna have to clarify that. I know, you know, everybody's, we have random drug testing, so whether they come back, whether it's alcohol or whether it's, you know, a certain type of pill, you know.
Is it in is the drug and alcohol, and I think I read it somewhere about being condition of employment? I mean, once you give a job offer,
Yep.
then you go through the drug and alcohol screening.
Right.
The way I read this is it deferring it is the applicant is addicted to habitual drugs or not including alcohol. I probably look at rewording that to someone who you've actually made the job offer to. You may suspect, but you don't know that necessarily to say, I'm going to reject you because of this until you've tested. And you can't test until you've actually given the job offer. So
Right.
I would either take that, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily wouldn't take it out, but I might reword that in a way where it's not necessarily just the applicant is addicted to these things, but, you know, a potential employee who is,
Right.
reword it in some way that way because.
This is talking just strictly about applications,
Right, and you really,
and we
how would
can't
you
test
know when you
before
can't
that.
test and you wouldn't know, so how do you?
Okay. Does it give you an out if you hire someone that is, and it comes back that they are positive, testing positive?
Well,
Do you have a-
Have it until you offer the job. That's how you
But
test.
do we have an out after we've hired somebody if they come back?
If
Do you
make
think it was applicants, new applicants, or, I mean, do you think somebody worded it, I mean,
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, you can't really say that when it comes to the applicant itself, because you wouldn't know, and you wouldn't be able to officially
Exactly.
test until you've offered them.
Right.
Your out is you write make all offers contingent upon those, and your job offers are written contingent upon those. It's a conditional offer of employment until they pass such tests.
I have an issue with that, the sentence before that too, because how would you know unless they were just stumbling and showing visible signs?
The use of drugs.
Yeah, how do you,
I think you're just gonna have to take that out and cover that somewhere else.
Covered in your job offers and what's, you know, you use examinations, but I mean, you can do that as part of, rewrite it in as, you know, when you extend offers, this be part of your conditional job offers.
and we do cover that.
Yeah, no, you do, and so that's why I would address that there.
Oh, it's probably down here on examinations. I don't know.
It's talking about the physicals, and included in that is alcohol testing and including drug testing. It still talks about applicant at that time, and again, you can't test them as an applicant.
Well, and then you have down here, appointments. Rehire employees, part-time. I've got a lot of yellow right there, but I think somewhere right around. We don't have anything in here about job offer, do we?
Well, I was reading both, and so it is kind of in the older ones, so it may be something where, once we go further into it, if we don't find it, we may have to take pieces, maybe from the older one, because I did read some about the job offers in the older one as well, and so it may just be a combination of the two. And I haven't gone a lot further in the new one yet, so
It's
I don't wanna speak.
probably semi-covered under examinations, but that whole page just may have too many things put
Kind of
together.
crammed in.
Yeah. May need to pull them out and,
you can, rejection of an applicant may be looking at the application itself. Timeliness, as I think it addresses different things that they have on the application in and of itself, and then look at your examinations and your testing, drug testing and stuff as back into your conditional offer of employment.
Right.
Separate the two.
the last, two sentences on page 12, certain public safety positions may also require successful completion of a post-offer or psychological exam as required by law. Do we need to define who those people would be? Are there people who we have to, do the police have to be?
I think so.
Yeah, you probably need to be more
Probably
specific in
be
that, and that, it could be here or in the,
specific there.
yeah, the job
It
description, job
probably may
classification.
apply to fire department too.
Good.
Because of,
Yeah, there might be some fire.
yep.
Um,
So I would just say certain public safety positions in the police and fire departments.
I do know
They
in
also
the
require it.
past, one of my cousins actually had a nervous breakdown working for the fire department because of the confinement. He apparently was in a precinct where they didn't have a whole lot of activity, so the confinement got to him because he was, there for so many hours, and so I can see where that could be an issue with the fire department.
Well, this says as required by law, so somebody must,
And that would probably, again, be in your job classifications and job descriptions for those particular positions.
See right
and
here,
part of that probably needs to go under background checks.
yeah, I think after background, the conditional offer of employment candidates for certain position may be required to undergo a background check. And I think somewhere right in there is where we could put in, start talking about conditional offer and then put in the drug screening and
Yeah.
physical,
You probably just need to rework that whole
yeah.
section. So did you understand the eligibility list that you have to maintain?
Yes, I did. I don't know.
Does that actually need to be in the handbook?
I don't know that this needs to be in the handbook.
I mean, that's your
I
responsibility.
think
on-
it's a very,
Although it
it's a
is-
very
it is-
short list
It is talking about employees
for promotion.
and leaving and coming back and,
That was left out of mine. That's why I started going back and forth between the two, because that was left out of my new copy, these few pages here.
it's page 14.
Yeah, that's not in this new version of mine, so.
I've got a lot of yellow here. This part-time and temporary employees, I think that 40 hour per week, I think it needs to be 29. Or, I mean, we could put 30 in there, but I think we need to keep them to 29.
I don't know why we would have ever put 40.
I don't know either.
That was me. I mean, the 40 is considered, in
Full-time.
most places, a full-time employee, so.
And I've got the ball, go ahead, I'm sorry. I've got,
Well, mine's, I highlighted above that.
okay, go ahead.
Do we actually authorize temporary promotional appointment of an existing employee, and they can't remain in that position for 6 months, past 6 months?
Where are you, right, where are you?
When a vacancy is to be filled, the city manager may authorize a temporary promotional appointment of an existing employee. So,
So if I have a part-time person, I could move it into
yes.
a temporary position.
But that person cannot remain in a temporary promotional appointment status for more than 6 months. Shall either be returned to their original position or appointed to regular status in the promoted position. Do we actually do that?
Well, I've read on where there's a policy where in any promotion, not necessarily a raise, but in any promotion, that employee automatically goes under a 6-month probation
Right.
Right.
to where, and I just.
But they're not necessarily, this is talking about a temporary one.
And I kind of look at that as the same thing. You're taking this person and putting them on probation until it makes sure they can do the job for 6 months. And if they can, they got it. If they can't, you put them back.
But where it says in another place where you actually promote a person, and they can't do it, you're not necessarily gonna let them go back to their other position. I forget where I read that.
I read
If
that
it's,
too.
if it's filled, they don't.
Right, so that really isn't what this is talking about. Because it's saying that they can go back to their previous position. Shall either be returned to their original position or appointed to regular status in the promoted. So I guess they won't let you move somebody into it and just keep them there forever without giving them the status. I guess that's what that's saying.
I mean,
Doing the work
if you need to
without
move
status.
someone into
Yeah.
that,
Kind of the way I view
you
it.
can't just keep them there forever as a part-time,
Leave
temporary.
that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of this stuff, if it's probably happened once, to be in the book. And so it's probably, just because we can't foresee it in this situation right now, but I mean, I could see like if you had a part-time employee that didn't want to work full-time, but they knew the job and could cover it, those would be reasons that you would step somebody up temporarily to move them back down. I don't know.
But you couldn't just leave them there.
You couldn't
Past
leave them.
6 months is what this is saying. And then the whole rehiring of employees. I just had a problem with the way it was worded. Full-time employees who leave employment with the city will have to go through the application process and take out "and then." If rehired, take out "in the future." Take out "will not have." If rehired, prior full-time service period will not count for purposes of determining benefit eligibility. It just seems,
Wordy.
tied my tongue up. Trying,
Yeah.
They are new employees. They're not going to be considered new employees. They are new employees.
they will be classified.
You can even-
So in
Yeah,
essence,
classified,
they
and you can-
basically got to start over with benefits.
Yeah,
Benefits and
They would
the
be classified
probationary
as new
period. I
employees.
mean, if you consider them as a new employee, it's just like they didn't work here before.
and is that
From that
true, no matter how long ago they left? If they left a month ago and came back, would we still not give them credit for their previous service?
According to this.
I want to say, I've heard it's 6 months. Somewhere there's a number somebody threw around, and I don't know that it's necessarily that an employee could leave for 6 months and come back up to 6 months and come back and receive. But I don't know where it is, or if that's written, or just how somebody said, you know, it was done.
Okay, we may run across it somewhere else. I mean, we can change it to be whatever we want it to be.
The one that I had rehired quit several years ago, but he's come back as part-time only.
I think, what do y'all do at your company? I think we do 6 months.
I'm trying to think of the exact, I don't think they give them 6 months, but I think it's, I want to say
3 months.
90 days or something like that, if you're back within 90. So I'd have to do a little searching on exactly what they do, but
When I left, I think mine was 30 at my company, the company I left.
yeah, they give you a little leeway
We
of being
we
able
can
to come
make it
back.
be whatever we want it to be. It seems kind of harsh not to give them any leeway, because people do change their minds and decide the grass wasn't really that greener.
Well, and you would have to, if you do that, you'd rewrite it in a way of them leaving on, you know,
Good term.
good terms the first time. They gave proper, you know,
Notice.
and they did everything they were supposed to do when they
Didn't
left.
stomp out and scream and,
Correct.
yeah.
So,
Okay, now we're down to your yellow lines.
Okay, we've already talked about the 40. I recommend 29. Do you recommend 28?
Oh, 28 would be,
That's what we do. It gives us leeway because, you know, sometimes if they're time clock employees, because the time clock will roll you over 15 minutes or, you know, and it adds up. So if they are turning in a time sheet or time clock, then you're probably going to want to be safe.
Okay.
Because there's big fines with that.
In this, I have talked to Gunny about that. Y'all know who Gunny is? He's the training officer for the fire department. This next sentence about volunteer firefighters and auxiliary police officers are part-time employees. I think that we need to reclassify them as volunteers who receive a stipend. And that would just take the 30 hours right out of that. on that.
Eliminate.
But that was, Gunny and I, we thought that should be rephrased and they're, cause really, I mean, they don't get paid for all the hours they work. They are volunteers. That is what they are, the bottom line.
and the auxiliary police are too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they would be considered paid volunteers, because there is a section somewhere in the charter, or for that, is basically,
They would be volunteers that receive, that would receive a stipend. Cause a lot of their time, they don't receive anything for. Now granted, they're getting trained, and they're getting, you know,
I would just make sure that
We don't need to call them.
they outline exactly what, you know, like how many hours they can be paid, like,
well, see, it's
Are
not,
they
they're not
covered?
even, they don't even classify as an hour, it's like for a,
$100.
it's like for a block, I mean, like the auxiliary police, none of them make over $65 in a month. And it's like 33 usually. How much,
$2 an hour is what it boils down to.
$33.33.
yeah. So I think it's important we get employees off of them.
Are they covered by workers' comp?
Yes, but volunteers are. Anybody that, I mean, even, now how far does that go?
It also is covered under TML for liability also.
Right, and it goes, but you know, there's a lot of stuff we're covered for, like even on this, that weren't all those people out there that were covered for, that were digging, planting trees.
Right.
So that's, our policy covers that.
But getting back to workers' comp on auxiliary police officer, there was one that had a knee injury back. I think actually had the knee injury before I was appointed interim. And for weeks he was getting a $400 check. And I'd deliver it down to Roy so he could pass it on, but he had to have knee surgery and there was complications and all this, but he was actually in training with another officer downstairs and tore his knee up. Actually, it was a little girl that actually done,
She's got a habit of that. Anyway,
but anyway, that went off, I think the total figure that I saw on the settlement was, the medical and everything was pretty good sum, I can't remember exactly what.
I would ask MTS what they classify those people as, but I don't think they should be classified as employees.
I don't either. The next paragraph, I think it should just be deleted. I think, how do you count part-time hours for full-time? I just don't understand any of it.
So they worked 1,000 hours in a year. You divide that by 40 and come up with how many months they have. And if you have a 90-day waiting period, would they have worked part-time? And I took that to be what that means, but it's okay with me if we don't.
I mean, I
You're putting
thought
that, that's how I took it, is you're putting that towards those benefits.
It's
For that
what,
waiting
it's
period,
whether
yeah.
they, I took it to be whether they could be, if they could, the day they started as full-time, if they could eliminate the waiting period because of their prior part-time service.
talking about the probationary period.
No. When you start, when
Benefit
you got
programs.
hired, were you eligible to get insurance immediately?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You were?
Well, 30 days.
Oh.
Well, we need to move that to 90 days.
Usually you're.
For anybody full-time.
You're out of carryover for 30 days and you don't just.
So I took that to be what that means. We can eliminate it, and they have to wait the
Part-time.
30 days.
Exception service, he will count prior.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's what it's stating, to become eligible for the benefits program towards that eligibility waiting period, which usually there is.
Well, I thought ours was 30 days. If we find it in here different, I thought I've read this pretty good, but
Usually when people go to work for you, do they stay?
yes.
Okay.
I want to say that most companies do 90 days. I mean, that's because that's your probation period. But, you know, I was sitting back trying to remember what the county did, and I don't recall. It may be 30 days. I would have to look into that, but I know corporate world is going to be
Oh, yeah.
90 days. Yeah.
If your turnover is not tremendous, you know, then you're just talking the difference between the premium for those 2 months. Our turnover is tremendous, so, you know, we'd be bouncing people on and off the,
Constant,
All the time.
yeah.
special person.
So you have
handle
to
that
be
all
90
day.
days before we'll add you on.
Let's see, our probation's either 6 months or a year, so you can't make them wait that long.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it's written down.
But we're fixing this.
Yeah, I was thinking about the probationary period.
I think they don't want, if they, I guess they feel like it will take them that long to figure out if they can do the job, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
yeah, it's
And they
your
wanted,
call
and they
whether
wanted,
that's-
and the way I look at it, they want that much leeway to be able to let somebody go without any cause.
That's the way it is in the police department. That's the reason they want a year there. If they don't make probation, then they can let them go before the year's up, and it's not any repercussion they can come back with. That's the reason they say they usually can tell, but within that year whether they're gonna
That's
go with our
interesting.
procedures or not, you know, so.
For everybody else, it's 6 months, but for police and fire, it's a year. That's the way it was when I got here.
Okay, so did we determine that we were gonna count their part-time service toward eligibility?
I don't know how it would even help, because even if they, once they turn full-time, they go on it in 30 days. I don't understand the point.
Yeah, I don't see
If
that.
it's 30 days,
We can just eliminate it.
Okay. Now, see, this is my understanding of the Health Care Reform Act, and I don't have a whole lot of understanding. I know enough to just, but, you know, I think, you know, with hire a temporary employee, if he works or she works 40 hours, we're required by law to offer them over 30 hours or offer them benefits. So, you know, I guess whether they're temporary, they can either be a full-time temporary or a part-time temporary.
I actually
But-
think there's a provision in the Affordable Care Act for temporary
For, now,
employees.
is that
Is it?
I'm not as
I'll check
depth into
on
that
it.
one as,
Now, see, I'm thinking, I think a temporary is seasonal, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you could hire someone from a temp. I know the company I came from, every time you turned around, there was somebody from the temp agency. I mean, just every second, seemed like. But,
Well, like, if something happened to you, we wouldn't survive, so we would have to hire a temporary.
you ready to walk right in, I know.
We would have to hire a temporary employee
I'll be at the hospital all
until
the
you
time.
came back.
Making sure you get
Yeah.
your medicine.
Sign this, Tom.
And see, I think a lot of this is just rhetoric that we don't need. If we simplify who our employees are, I mean, after this 6 months of employment, a temporary employee status shall be evaluated, and the employee shall be reinstated as a regular employee, reinstated as a temporary employee, or dismissed. I mean, is that necessary? I don't know.
It's okay with me to delete it.
yeah, I mean, it depends on how much you use temporary employees.
We don't use them hardly at all. I don't know that we've used one.
We haven't used one.
Now, if we had to, you know, I mean,
We seem to just be able to hand it off to Susan and she'll take care of it.
well, I'm thinking outside, if the yard work gets to where we just gotta hire,
Yeah.
no, I like doing that too. You know, I guess if you hire them for 40 hours a week for 5 months out of the year, do you have to cover their insurance for 5 months? Or do you say there's a provision for that?
I think there's a
but-
provision for that. I'll check on it.
And then, this after 6 months, well, it seems to me that is already in place. You've got you got a supervisor who say, hey, we got to keep this cat. Is there any way we can hire him on full time? He's going to take that to the city manager. City manager say, well, we'll see if we got it in the budget. He'll talk to me, and then say, well, we're going to have to ask the board, see if we've got the money, and do a
No, I think
budget
you'd have to
amendment.
go back through the hiring process. Even if you think the person is the most qualified, they'd have,
You'll have to go and advertise and get
It
applications.
doesn't say
for it.
right here. After 6 months, temporary employee status shall be evaluated. Employee shall be either reinstated as a regular employee or as a temporary employee or be dismissed.
yeah, but before you could hire them as a regular employee. Oh, so we just need to change this.
Isn't that what that says? Isn't that what we'd have to run into if we hired a temporary employee based on this?
Unless it was in a position that was already approved. I think you'd still have to go through the hiring process. I think you'd have to take applications and,
Creating a new position. See, I think it goes against it. I mean, I think there's doublespeak here. I mean, because if you're, and there's talk in here later on about creating a new position, it has to go through the board, has to go through the process, and then this right here looks like a kind of backdoor on that. Disagree? I don't know.
Well, they're hired as a seasonal employee or as a replacement for an employee on leave. So I guess it's saying that you would need to evaluate the whole on leave for the employee. But even at that, I think you'd still have to go through the hiring process. Even if you determined that the employee wasn't gonna come back and somebody needed to fill the position, you'd still have to go through the posting it and letting that person apply. So I don't think they could be instated as a regular employee.
So I think that after 6 months down, it should just be omitted. What do you think?
Yep.
Because if you're going to bring them on at that time, and your policy is to, post the position, I don't know if you post internally first for a set period of time and then go
That comes
external.
on those lists.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking, that's what I was getting at as well, the list, then this person is going to either be on the list when they come back, or, to be brought back, or to be able to promote up. Or if you post it internally, this person has that opportunity to apply and be reviewed just like anyone else within your department, or within the city, the company per se. So they would have that same opportunity to do it that way, so you could write it into your application policies instead of just reinstating a temporary employee into that role.
Right.
So can we actually hire a temporary employee?
Well, and that's what I was gonna ask, is that how the employees that are hired for summer camp, fall for the park? Are they considered temporary employees?
Probably, or
They are.
seasonal.
So if you have, if
They
they're,
don't ever work over 30 hours during that time anyway. I mean,
so you're probably gonna need something under temporary employees or seasonal, however you wanna word it. But this is actually kind of referring to temporary, somebody.
Covering somebody
so
that's
like a
out.
temp or, yeah.
somebody's on maternity leave or something.
So if somebody was on maternity leave and they decided not to come back,
Yeah.
you would not hire,
You wouldn't hire that temp, you'd have to go through the application, is the way I view it.
Well, you might hire them after you went through the
Right,
application,
they
If
might
you do
but,
the
be
internal
one hired, but
application
they
Yeah.
still have to-
and applying, let them apply for the position.
Heard one position today from Knowlesville, they got 80-something applications.
yeah.
so did we decide
Do we need to leave
to
that
take
or
out
take
that
it?
after 6 months thing out?
Yeah, I took that one
I
out.
think, take that out and re-put that into your, application hiring process somehow.
Rewrite that?
Okay.
Is this in PDF form or Word form that I sent you?
One of them's in Word and one of them's in PDF.
Is the newest one's in Word, isn't it?
I think so. And the oldest one's PDF.
So it can be fixed. The only thing I saw on 17,
What about this last sentence on 16?
I think that needs to stay.
22.
Are all personnel in the fire and the police department sworn in? Is the word sworn necessary in that statement?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't either, that one's good. Read that, I was wondering about that, and I didn't think Chief Harris wasn't here today, but I would normally, he comes in for a visit every morning, but he wasn't here today.
Where is it? Is it
and see.
I
I
wanna
guess
say
it's
the fire
okay, but
department did something with their new,
The lieutenant promotion.
yeah, promotion.
I don't remember them being sworn
Remember
in.
back, it seemed like to me they were sworn in.
Yeah, it seems like they did
My
something.
new one is
But I
missing
don't
pages,
recall
so I'm
any
going by the
police
old one.
officers coming
And
in
the wording a
front.
little different.
Okay.
Okay.
While they're checking on that, I had a question actually above the section above that, where it's talking about salary adjustments during the probationary period.
In the B,
Correct. Is that, I think I saw that still in numbers. I would just don't understand giving someone a salary adjustment during their probationary period. And I don't know if you guys are aware or do that, you know, or not, but, you know, your reward for probationary period is you stay employed. I mean, you continue to, you've made it, you continue to work. Adjusting their pay or get like a merit increase, like, almost like a merit increase in a sense at the end of it or something.
it may be that they don't quite have all of the qualifications, and you would hire them in at a lower salary. And as they got the required training or something, you might set it up to give them some amount of money as they went through, but I don't have any problem with not doing it.
Well, I was thinking at it both from just an, you know, I've never been anywhere where at the end of your probationary period, you got a bump in pay or something. Now, again, it's not, I've never been involved with fire or police or something like that where you would have to have some additional courses and training and certifications or whatever the case may be, but your probationary period is to ensure that you're going to continue to work out and continue to stay employed. That just kind of caught me as odd to have an adjustment in pay at the end of probationary period or during the probationary period. You know, most adjustments that way come at your, you know, evaluation timeframe. So that was just a question I had, and if that's something, you know, you guys wanted to keep or not keep, just, you know, from a budgeting standpoint too, if you grow and you start hiring more employees and they're looking at an adjustment during or right after their probationary period, I mean, that's money that wouldn't necessarily have to allot. It can be evaluated at their anniversary or whenever however we decide to do the evaluation process. And that's when they get their increase, that's when they get their salary adjustment.
I think that needs to be looked at a lot. And I think,
I had never seen that before, so I just kind of was like, wow. A salary bump during or
Because
after your probationary period. I'm
I
happy to
know
be
all
staying
of
on.
us
Oh, yeah.
up. I know every new person there, it's such a different type of employment than pretty much anybody's ever been involved with. It's a totally different ballgame, and I don't know what all the police has to go through, what all the fire has to go through. I know for us in the finance department, I mean, it's pretty class intensive, but I know they do a lot of training in both areas. So I don't know, and I don't,
Do we need
But
to
is that a
have,
requirement of the job when you're
but
hired?
this
I mean,
is
that
a
part-
department, I'd like to talk to the captains and the gunny about this, and I'd also like to talk to Chief Harris and see, you know, because, you know, if you have the flexibility to be able to fire somebody, do you want, you know, but if somebody comes in and is just jamming out on all their requirements, I don't know. I don't know what the reason is behind that.
do we
Well-
need to have a general employee handbook and a separate one?
Well, they have several ones for the fire,
But it has separate ones at those.
for the fire and the police, but this is supposed to be kind of a big umbrella.
So they're gonna keep theirs with the fire and the police?
Yeah, but this is supposed to be how I, Mr. Hall, deal with, I mean, their policies are, I
They
guess,
violate their policy, then they'll write them up on their policy, but that's when they'll bring them to me and tell me what they violated.
Do we need to make sure that their policies don't contradict what we're saying?
Most definitely.
Probably, yeah.
It'd be in line. I would almost suggest it being. You know, this is kind of your rule book for your company, and that's what they're gonna look at. If there's any, you know, grievance or any issues like that, they're gonna look at your rule book. And if you've got 2 or 3 separate rule books out here,
Yeah,
Well, this one,
I
this
wouldn't-
one precedes everything. And
yeah, I would make
Yeah.
sure they're either definitely in line and almost copy, or you encompass it in one. That's what I would
well,
look at.
and I'm kind of with you, it's almost like if they have certain provisions that they want to lay out, then that's fine, but it probably needs to be incorporated into this. So if somebody comes and says your policy and procedure, or you hand it to a fire or police, and you give it everything, now, if it doesn't apply to, say somebody in finance, obviously, it's worded in a way where it's clarification. I mean, I don't know, it just simplifies things to put it all.
Well, Terry says his policy and procedures manual is about that thick.
Well, that may be why they're separate.
So,
Well, and the procedures wise, he may have a lot of different training, he may have a lot of different other things like that that may not necessarily be encompassed in this, but when you talk about hiring, are you talking about discipline, are you talking about firing, you're talking about compensation, you're
yeah,
talking about
that
those type of
needs to
things?
be covered.
need to be-
All their
It
stuff
is.
needs to be
It
here.
is.
Need to be
You know, they may be, they may have some training manuals
Yeah.
or something like that that can be separate, but the rule of their, what their law should be in,
Theirs should probably be operation manuals, not.
It
exactly,
is.
not
It
handbooks,
is.
not employee
Yeah.
handbooks.
we need to have a long discussion with both fire chief and.
I'm
police chief.
confident they're not, I mean, all the hiring and all now granted, they might have, we just need to make sure things like, things that concern me more are the disciplinary action, they might have, that might be a different twist.
That all needs to be,
I know,
Right there.
but as
Yep.
far as the pay and as far as the benefits and that, I feel like we're covered, but I'm not sure about some of that other.
probably your evaluation processes, your, disciplinary actions, all those things need to be uniform.
Right.
Yeah, the form you use to evaluate a police officer against a firefighter, against the finance, are definitely gonna be different. But I would be very uniform in, if I'm gonna send a firefighter through a verbal, written, suspension, whatever your 5 steps may be, 4 or 5 steps, then the finance is gonna be through those 4 or 5 steps. Consistency
Right.
is your big thing.
Okay.
And like even without the calls, I know in disciplinary actions during probation and stuff like that, I would still recommend having documentation as to even then, why this person didn't make it out of probationary period. What conversations or what, just because it's without cause, I would document my calls. There's still a cause. There's a reason he didn't make it out of probationary period. I know here it says something without cause and so on and so forth. I would be very
It needs to be documented.
documenting why it didn't make it out of
Page is
probationary
that?
period as well. Well, mine's a little different than yours, because my new one's missing some pages. I'm going by the old one. Mine's on 16. It's probably 17.
What's the,
Dismissal of an employee during the probationary period.
Yeah.
yeah,
It says here, with or without cause, I would still suggest documenting my calls.
The one that we've done that for was well documented,
Yeah, and that's,
so.
yeah, it's a probationary period, and they know that, but it's always better to document any type of term like that, and document the reasons why, conversations, steps, actions, that sort of thing.
Could come back with discrimination.
All of it's to show that you followed your processes, you followed your procedures, you documented calls, you tried to do what was necessary to correct any issues you were having and failed at doing so. The more documentation you have in that, the better off you are, because it's really to cover, you know, you can fire for whatever reason, I guess, but you need to be able to cover yourself for why, and it needs to be in relation to the job, in relation to your handbook.
Right.
Be consistent through all divisions is what it boils down to.
Correct. Correct.
And I think the more consistent we can get with why do you treat a probationary employee any different from a regular employee? Other than why do you want? I mean, I don't know. I think I think you treat employees.
I think that's where in the police manual that it states that they've got that probationary period to go through. I think.
Well, if they-
Her, I think that's the way it's.
yeah, and if you're on probation, yeah. But I mean, anyway. Yeah.
This transferred or promoted regular employees, this is where it says, if performance is not satisfactory in the new position, then the employee may again be transferred if a position for which the employee is qualified is available, which contradicts
The temporary.
the page 15 where the city manager can send it back. By the conclusion of 6 months, the employee shall either be returned to their original position or assigned to stay in. This one says that there may not be a job for them. This one says that they will be returned to their position.
Right. The only difference is this was a temporary taking the place of somebody that was out. And what's the difference in this situation? This is a regular employee, you got promoted, but they couldn't cut it. So if there's a position back where they were, if there's not, sorry about your luck.
It still sounds contradictory to me.
Yeah.
No, I see that, but maybe we can work it on it in a way where, I mean, if you got someone you felt strong enough to promote, then they're not a bad employee. It may just been, you know.
See, I would think you would give more leeway on the regular employee that you promoted than you would a temporary promotional.
No, I agree, but I mean, you know, I've worked with, you know, people who were great claims analysts that but because they were a great claims analyst, they got promoted to management. Well, they may have been great claims analysts, but they were not good managers of people. And so, you know, just because they failed at that, I'm like you go kind of above and beyond because you know they're a great employee. You want to try to, you know, a lot of times we would have them fall back into some type of role or something like that to continue employment with us. They're not bad employees, they just weren't good managers.
Right.
And so you do want to go a little more there, but you also still have to follow your guidelines on what's currently open and what you're applying for and those type of things.
Well, I think probably both sections need to be reworded and rewritten.
And this one just maybe take this out of here and put into there in some fashion. Although that's talking about the city manager appointing someone. Got it.
All right. Anybody have anything on 19?
Compensation plans, okay.
I have issues with number 9. You have anything before that?
No. I kind of have a issue with all of their percentages.
Well, and 5 goes back to that 5% increase upon completion of your probationary period again as well.
You know, it just makes you think at some point they may have had that type of program, but I don't think we do anymore, and that's probably why it's all worded. I don't know.
I've just never seen that. I mean, I'd like to
Yeah.
get a raise after my probationary period, but in most places you don't.
I think it's like hourly, you know, I know sometimes like, you know, certain jobs, but it's more like for, you don't see that in salary, but, you know, positions, but maybe some hourly, but I don't know that it's necessary because we're not doing it anyway.
Right,
So
and
one of them says we can hire them in at 5% over the minimum, and then the next, and number 5 says that we can give them another 5% raise at the end of their probationary period. So,
And plus you're doing merit increase at the end of the year. I mean, they feasibly could be getting above and beyond the minimum of your salary range 3 times in the year, in the first year, in the same year. And not that I don't want to pay employees well, but that's a little excessive, especially with the budget and things as they are. And as the city grows and you start bringing more in, if you're giving them a 5%, every one of them after a probationary period, that could turn into, you
Did
know,
y'all get 5% after being here probation? I guess you haven't been here, well, a year, 6 months?
Usually if it's just a step raise, and it's usually 2%.
So it's probably not something they're practicing anyway.
Well, it's, I don't really, I think that's something that needs to be looked at, and I don't know, see, the steps are set up, whereas, and I never really understand this 8, whereas if you get promoted to a grade, and you're at the same step, but you just go to a new position, which is a grade higher, if you stay at that same step, it's 8% raise. So, but according to what I understand is you can slide anywhere along that scale that you're the city manager and your department head sees. Now that is a promotion instead of a raise, whereas your merit raise would be you're still at your same position. You've just done an excellent job. You get a step. Whereas there's grades going up and down, which is jobs or titles. Let's say if I got the city manager, that'd be a promotion. But anyway, I don't know what the fair thing this is. See, now I know Alan worked on a lot on that pay plan, and I think this is trying to tie into that pay plan some way, but they still don't make a whole lot of sense to me either. And as far as this July of each year, I don't understand why, if you're going to give merit raises and you're going to do it annually, why you don't do it on the annual anniversary. It seems to me like you're costing yourself so much money
At one
by
time.
doing it on July.
Yep. And for the whole year and for the whole budget year.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, some of this could be, half of it being this budget year, half of it being next budget year, you know, that sort of thing. I would suggest the anniversary dates as well. You know, that way you do your merit
Well, and
increases
then
based
you're,
on
then you're
that.
guaranteed, you know, this is what happens in reality. Everybody's expecting their 2% merit raise, and you're doing it all in July, right after, and you know, well, chief or department head, I need so-and-so's evaluation. We need to sit down, we need to go over. Well, if you got everybody at once, you're not gonna give it a good look, and you're not gonna give the thoroughness that it needs. And whereas if you're doing it on the anniversary, you know, you sit down and you say, you know, this is doing this, and you know, it's I don't know. It takes me the
2
same
or 3 a
amount.
week, which you could easily go over those and give them good evaluations.
No, yeah, you can be thorough on that, and maybe even be able to work it in a way where if you're not getting it all at one time in July and hitting yourself all at one time, you know, maybe you can juggle with your percentages based on the scores they get in their evaluation. You know, like, I know like with us, if you you're, you're evaluated on a scale of 1 to 5 on several different criteria. If you score a 3 and you're pretty steady at a 3 all the way down, then you're meeting the minimum expectations of that job. You're not blowing them out of the water, but you're not failing. You're a solid employee. You come in 8 to 5, you do your 10 things, and you'll get a 3%, say. If you score 3s and you have some 4s in there too, then you occasionally go above and beyond. Well, we may give you a 4%. If you got some 3s, 4s, and 5s in there, we might give you 5%. If you're scoring some 1 and 2s in there, you're probably not gonna get anything. You should be on an action plan, you should be on some disciplinary action, you should be on something that's gonna correct the problems that you have. And so, you may have a handful of employees not getting anything, a handful getting 5, and then some of them getting 3 or 4 in the middle.
Being glad they still have a job.
Correct. And so what I'm saying, you could toy with the percentages a little bit, because not everyone's gonna get a 2% in July.
Well, and it all
I
needs,
kind of like that, and I think when we did this, there wasn't enough, Alan worked hard, but it wasn't enough thought process of how it was gonna affect, and it actually has had a huge effect on our budgeting, and it's
Well-
hurt us.
He's used to working with the federal government, and they have all kinds of compensation plans and bonuses because they did their job, and, I'm sure that they were trying to give some kind of directive over if you had a position and you had 10 applicants, and one of them was just really outstanding, you would not want them to start at minimum. So he was trying to give direction, somebody was trying to give direction of how to take care of that, and a department head could not give more than 5% without talking to Mr. Hall. But I don't know that we need to cover that in here.
I think it needs to be based on an evaluation process, and it needs to be uniform, and this might take us a while to do.
Yeah.
But I just think it's flawed.
And I think we need to take out the probationary period increase.
Well, a lot of this, I think it can go out the window if we, I don't understand all the percentage when the step plan really should have taken place of some of this.
What I'd like to see is the director or the department head bring me the evaluation and not expect an immediate signature for me to just glance over it. I want time to digest that evaluation. I think I should have a minimum of a week to be able to look at it once each day, or maybe I'll look at it for several hours a day. But I think that the city manager should be given a little more leeway than just, and he's done a good job and won't expect me to sign it right then. I think I need time to go over that evaluation, and that's my recommendation. If we can
Work that in there.
Well, you can write
work
that
that
down.
in, if it's not a week, 3 days or something, 3 working days, I think would give me ample time.
And you can work that into your process as far as your evaluation processes go. You want to have it by their anniversary, but prior to the company that's over us now, it had to be in no later than 2 weeks past their anniversary date. And you would retro the raise or whatever back to that date.
I'll
you
tell
would
you,
give
one
them
of the things
weeks to be ready for
that will
that.
make an employee matter than anything
Is,
is you tell them, yeah, I'm gonna get around to the evaluation, then a month goes by, and then another month goes by,
Well-
and you talking about making somebody mad.
no, and that's part of your standards for your supervisors and managers as well, is they're required to have it by no later than 2 weeks past their evaluation date, their anniversary date. So that means it needs to be to him probably a week later, so he can be back to the employee 2 weeks
The
later.
HR manager at our office sends out notifications to the managers to say, these evaluations are due.
This is your day.
Yep, this is your deadline to get it
Well,
complete.
and we're in the process, I've talked to Susan about getting our spreadsheet and when everybody's due and when everything's, to be done. But the more we talk, I think a uniform, evaluation is key, and get on a point system. And, and there's no reason yeah.
I don't know how far you want to go, but even we have midpoint reviews as well. So at 6 months, You sit down and you do
Have
a
to-
mini review.
We'll have to get the budget where we can get an HR person.
No, and I understand that, but I'm just saying, at some point, that way you sit down and you give them an idea of, it's maybe a little
How they're
shorter.
going.
But here's where we're at. Now, we're having some issues, but before your real evaluation comes up, that's gonna count towards your merit, you've got 6 months to correct these things, or let's work on these things, or let's improve here. And then by that time, you may not have any issues. You have, everything's corrected. If by that time you still have issues, then you've got some documentation along the way too to show why disciplinary's coming, because you gave them an opportunity to correct it 6 months
It
ago.
doesn't even have to have anything to do with the two of you. It could just be the managers and put it in their
Yeah.
folder.
Yeah, still put it in the folder. It doesn't necessarily be approved by him, but at least they know where they stand going forward for the next 6 months.
Well, like this, I would say if, one of the managers writes a person up for 3 times or whatever, I think that's when they need to bring them to me. And let's see if we can correct it. If we can't correct it, then it's time for dismissal. I view it. And,
The thing that you have to be aware of is paying attention if there's any trends in favoritism.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Well, and
You can't write that in the,
But if you,
but you know, that,
That does occur.
but you set your disciplinary actions up that way too, is, verbal has to be documented and put in. Next one is a written, has to be documented and put in. Next one is suspension, documented and put in. I mean, you can make it a 3-step, 4-step process where he needs to really sit down then and evaluate whether you're gonna continue employment with him or not. But they've had multiple steps along the way to improve it, so therefore, if you do decide to determine, you've got documentation along the way of the steps you've taken to correct this. It's all written in, for his review.
Well, and he uses the terminology action plan. That is huge, if you get, you need to sit down. If you're having trouble, you need to lay it out, you need to document it, and, make sure that they are aware of the violation and what it would take to improve it.
Because I would have managers come to me before and say, well, I gotta get rid of them, they're just doing all this and this, this and this. Well, what have you done to correct it? Where's my documentation? I would be foolish as an NHR to let you terminate someone and I have nothing to fall back on. And so, that's what you want to ensure you do, more than anything, is document it and be consistent with everyone in your documentation. You can't have this person over here missing 3 days in a week and nothing said to them, and this person misses 3 days and you write them up. Well, you're gonna cause yourself problems. It still has to be consistent in the policies you put out. But set your policies that way.
Well, I am,
okay, so we will try to come up with a new compensation plan, just rewrite the whole thing.
I
Yeah.
think so.
I think so too, and I think, I'm about to the point to just starting to look at, I'd like to take a sample size of 5 or 6 municipalities and
Yeah.
look at their policy, employee handbook. And I've looked at a couple, but kind of not real thorough. I mean, I feel like, we've come through enough. I mean, at first glance, I thought, man, we're just gonna have to barely tweak this. And it's
Yeah, I did too at first.
but we've gotten into it enough now, I'm like, ugh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, we might need to go another direction, as far as, cause I think we'll probably find, we can continue, but I don't think we'll have anything ready for the board by March going this route.
If you do this, no.
I think,
Well, can we go over overtime? Of course, I guess we can't change it until we come up with something anyway. But, bottom line, for all departments, such hours as the case may be, must be actual hours worked, but shall include any vacation leave, compensatory time used, holidays, and approved absences for work-related injuries. We do not do that. It's actual time. Overtime doesn't count unless it's actual time worked.
Well, and I've talked to our city attorney about this because I had issues with this too. I'd never seen that before as well. And I talked to MTS about this.
And they agree?
They said as long as it's in the policy,
Oh, well, we just changed the policy.
you
though.
can change the policy. It's gotta be, the board can, and like I said, this is the policy.
They could take 40 hours of vacation, come in and work 1 8-hour shift,
And get
and
overtime.
get 8 overtime.
nobody
That makes no sense.
would do that. I mean,
So what you would do is you would pay them
They might
32
try.
hours of vacation, so they saved that 8 hours of vacation, and you'd pay them 8 hours of work.
Yeah, I mean, because I think Tom and I talked about this one once, maybe there was a situation you were talking about, but, and I did read somewhere where that is okay to do. I was the same way you were, like, that's, you
Yeah.
know, by the
Well, they
labor
always
laws
like
that
it.
I'm aware of, it's actual time work, physical performing duties when it comes to
Well,
a
that's what the
non-
federal
non-exempt
government
employee.
says. But, yeah, but you can,
And I saw that,
Now,
but.
you can always give employees more than is legal.
More, correct.
Yeah.
You just can't, you gotta at least give them that, but you can't, so, yeah, I was, because with us, it's actual physical time worked. And, you know,
So they'd get to save their PTO day,
be saving your PTO day, yeah.
yeah.
right.
and most people, you would want that, to save that and use it for another day off, or,
Well, even if you use the PTO, which most wouldn't, but even if you did, just to have some extra money in a paycheck one week or something, you can, but it's not overtime. It would be the 32 hours you physically, or the 36 hours. Let's say you work 36 hours, but you took it, in the 4 days after Monday, but you took Monday off. You can still put the 8 hours in there, but you're only gonna get paid regular time for 44 hours.
Well, I agree, but under the way we are now.
No, I know that.
So,
is
you know,
that
it's-
something we're doing though? I mean, is that how many times that you can work all of that you've actually, or have you ever had to do that?
It's rare, but it just depends on what's going on. I mean, if you got just the example I've got is just like he said, but even to take it a step further, say I take 4 days of vacation. Of course, I'm exempt, so it doesn't matter. But if I was hourly, if I come in and work, and I have 32 hours of vacation, and then I come in and work 12 hours. Well, the way we are now, that 4 hours is time and a half. Whereas if under any other business in America, it'd be 12 hours of straight time.
Straight time, yep.
But that is rare. I mean, it's very rare.
And I know they talk about this with the police and fire because of the different hours, and there may be some exemptions in there, and I'm not familiar, never worked with those type of shifts and stuff. You may have to make qualifications based on that, I don't know, but a normal hourly employee, non-exempt, I don't see that.
Does everybody do a timesheet? How do you do, so even like your management does a timesheet?
Well, then, if you're on salary, you have to turn in your vacation time.
But you don't have to do your timesheet?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Get paid if you, and I'm working enough to cover anybody's slack off time, I'll tell you. But I think
Our
everybody's
salaried people have to go in and initial that they were working.
And our salary.
For the
still
day.
have to-
And we may
still
need
have
to,
take
we
the
may,
hours,
we
get
may
out.
need to look at that, but right now, the way we do it is we, turn in, of course, we have very few salary. I'd say 7, 8, maybe. Maybe more than that.
The only reason we did it, I think, is because it wasn't where the payroll department could keep up with who was off. And
Right.
so they would forget to turn in their PTO time, and so they would just get their regular hours and save up their PTO time because we weren't ever charging it. And so we just implemented it's all on a sheet, little blocks, and they initialed that they were there.
That was really ours too, is to have a record of the days you were there against PTO. You know, a lot of the salaried employees, though, would track their time worked just for, I know I did for just my own purposes. If I work 12 hours that day, that's what I'm putting in. Even though I know I'm getting paid a set no matter what, I
Yeah.
still know for my own purposes how many hours I worked that week.
Well, and you do.
So get in the habit of tracking it.
Yeah,
for
you do,
yourself.
you do want that, I mean, because even if you are salary, it shows you, hey, I'm working over this many hours. Even for your own review, you wanna be able to say, I worked this many hours and I need a raise, or. you
Or
know,
it's,
Or
or
we
it's,
need to hire
or
somebody else.
backs for another position. That's probably what I need to start doing, because I've had, I've talked to Mr. Hall a lot about it, and if if their budget ever, I mean, the HR, it can consume you quick. And then the, risk management as well. You know, we're looking at almost a crisis situation there, whereas, once Roy leaves, we've got, if you throw all the workman's comp claims on me, as well as, all the property claims and all that,
All the benefits,
might as well just put me on a cot.
there's no way he could handle.
So, and you throw in the risk management as well as the HR on top of everything else, it's more than any one person can do. You just you just take it as it comes at you and try to Band-Aid it as best you can and move on.
Yeah, well, and it's not trying to micromanage, your employees, it's just efficient, government. It's just saying, we can say, this person works here, this person, a timesheet, I don't know. I don't know that it's it's not trying to because you have a lot of flexibility when you're salary and you're having to go and here and do, but it's just some kind of documentation record of your time, what I don't know. A lot of places.
I was really surprised when they said, for everyone, the first things Crystal said is, you just document it if you take vacation. All the other, that's all on salary employees, and, I was like,
Yeah, track my own.
Is
Do.
I
Track,
need it
Diane
too.
salary?
track your hours.
Is Diane's salary?
no.
You got 10.
See, and I think that's interesting. Why do you have so many full-time hourly employees? I mean, because y'all got a lot of them that get 40 hours a week, and they're hourly, but they're not considered salary. I just wonder why that was done at some point.
Well, you
What
have-
benefit would,
You have to meet a certain guideline to be considered non-exempt.
so it's more for non-exempt?
It's gotta be, you gotta be administrative, executive, or,
Professional.
a professional.
It can get very detailed even within those on what
You have to make
constitutes
decisions and,
You had to have people under you.
different things that constitute whether it's, you can't just decide to pay somebody salary. They have to fall under those qualifications.
I was just curious, because I didn't realize till the other day we had so many people that were just hourly, 40 hours.
Yeah. I say, let's think about it and see how we need to go about this, because we may need to branch off and have a subcommittee and just kind of, just elbow it out. Because I know I don't want to spend this is going to dominate our finance committee meeting.
Yeah, well,
Since we do have policies that's different in police and fire, I think we need a representative from each one of those if we do go to a subcommittee. I mean, if we're gonna bring it all under one umbrella.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think so. And we'll, let's think about it and give me, or give Donna or Brian what you think. I think this is, it's gonna be more of a task than I first originally thought. So that's my story.
Can I ask a little quick question? Since that was kind of like a workshop, how much do y'all want me to put in the minutes? Tom was reading them today, and he said, whew, it's a lot of minutes. I walked past and I went, well, you
I
know,
would say
it's
just
kinda hard.
discussion of the first 23 pages. And we determined that,
We need to go a different direction
Go to a
to a
subcommittee.
subcommittee and
Possible
just kinda
recommendation
just-
of that or something, yeah.
Okay, y'all don't want all of this and, okay.
say thank you. Merry Christmas. There is a section on nepotism in there, and I just bought this policy from my office just as an example of, it wouldn't apply to the city. I mean, we couldn't use it as it is, because
There you go.
it wouldn't work, but I thought I'd give it to you as an example.
I make a motion that we form a subcommittee that has a representative of each department. And I would love to have the input from from as many of this committee as possible, but I know time is hard to come by. So, I just feel like we're gonna have to dig deeper on this than just this meeting. So, I make a motion that, I'm not sure how to form it. I would like for I'd make a motion that Mr. Hall and I talk, we look at it and see what a feasible committee would be, and then we request for members.
Okay.
Unless somebody else has a better idea.
Let me ask this. I'd like to see one outside citizen be a part of that too.
We have two right here.
I'm talking away from this committee here. I mean, I have someone in mind. I think you would too. I think you would agree if she has the time to spend with it.
Last name start with an R. Last name start with an R.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know how much time they would have.
That may be the problem with, especially when she's moving, where she works is moving across town.
Well, I think it can be anybody.
This was one that we recently interviewed that was just top notch.
Tons of HR experience.
If she would have the time to put into a committee,
I'd like to look at some other municipalities, and I hope I don't step on anybody's toes, but I think maybe just start from square
Start over.
one. But I don't.
Maybe
want-
we get another municipalities and we use theirs as a guideline. And see what we agree or disagree with.
Well, and I think it's important we look at the same type of charter, the same type of setup. We need a city manager commission charter. We need, it needs to be somewhat of a demographic as
Similar
ours.
in
And I mean,
size.
we don't want to look at Metro Nashville or Franklin or Brentwood as much as we would all like to, is that we beam over everything they do, but, I don't think, there might be policies in there we could use, but I'd like to get one that's doing it right, is sort of our size, or at least our demographics. I'll ask MTS to lead me on that. I do know, one company, Humboldt gets A's on their CAFR every year, and they're not much bigger than we are, so it can be done. But anyway, I just broke your pen. So yeah, I think we need to move forward, but I think we need to move forward kind of thinking about efficiency and quality.
Why don't you, Mr. Hall, have a discussion and go ahead and select the committee? Go ahead and have a meet.
Okay. I know you, I'm counting on you.
We're not eliminating this committee,
No,
That's
and,
okay.
and we can,
but from directors, their side, and if police department's policy manual is completely different, we need to make sure that we're on the same page, or that policy's on the same page where we're going.
Right.
And come up with a while ago, I wholeheartedly agree with that, so.
well, we're gonna have to, everything will get together, everything's got to go before the city attorney, before it goes to the board, and, and it's got to be scrubbed a lot, but I've just seen, like I said, I've just seen so many discrepancies, and we all just kind of said, so. Okay. Was that a motion? Was it really?
Well, let me ask you something, and not to butt in, which I have your whole meeting. But do y'all have a quorum right now? I mean, because are y'all voting members? Okay, so it's written as
Yes, ma'am.
the employees. Okay, just
Yeah.
giving my 2 cents, making sure y'all.
I guess if another one wasn't here.
Well, they had text us, let us know if we had a conflict tonight, so.
So
Yeah.
can a committee form a subcommittee?
Yeah, y'all can, I wouldn't think you would have to have board approval. I mean, you can have a subcommittee and that wouldn't have to go.
Yeah, this is just, I think it's a research, fact finding, and we can do a lot of stuff. We
Yeah,
can
they're
do,
not gonna have any voting rights, so they just present it back to you,
Right.
this board, and y'all determine.
and then, all right. Well, we will work on, I'll make a motion, Mr. Hall and I, work on forming a subcommittee to research. Form the committee and with the, purpose of researching other policies, other employee handbooks and policy manuals from other municipalities.
I second it.
All in favor?
Keep
forgetting that. Have to vote on them all.
Ooh,
Okay,
I'm hungry.
so
Y'all need another member on the finance committee too. Y'all are a small group.
It's 5 of us. So,
the next new business is discussing or take action of revenue and expense
Reorganization
projections.
of some boards anyway that we need to, I'll get with you and see what you think.
I know that we said we weren't gonna do anything about the budget until February or March, but Tom and I did go through and, got what we consider to be a conservative projection of where we're gonna wind up at. And, I did notice on transfer from the drug fund, we were short $50,000, so that may be an error. But we're either gonna be short $226,000 at the end of the year or short $276,000. I'm not sure what we did there.
okay.
We're projecting to be 158,000 under on expenses. So that offsets what we're gonna be under on revenue. But we're looking at probably $100,000 short at the end of the year. So Tom was going to look at telephones and possibly the gasoline for the cars, and what we might have to do there.
Fortunately, it's coming down.
The gas being lower should help us out a lot. We cut $106,000 from the local sales tax. That could come in better than we think it's going to. So it's possible that we're still gonna be okay, but
If things keep going like they're going now, and there's not substantial,
yeah. You know, if local sales tax picks up significantly more than we projected it to, then, you know, we may be okay. But we thought it would be easier for him to start looking at some areas now, because we're looking at cutting $20,000 a month. If we wait till March, we're looking at cutting $40,000 a month. So, that's just where we're at. It's not real bad, but it's a little concerning. Any questions?
Maybe that may be one of the things you do too when you're calling some of these other places, is kind of see how they operate their phones, you know, any suggestions on that. I don't know if y'all shared earlier, but we did get the good news the other night with Walmart saying that they had their first $1 million week, the week of Thanksgiving. So that's very exciting. Hopefully, they'll have several of those.
A couple of weeks would be nice.
Yeah,
They'll just start there and pick up and go.
yeah.
That's what
Keep
we're
going.
hoping. We're going to keep
Keep it
going.
going.
Have a steady, good, steady
well, and
pace.
that's,
Yeah.
I'm not saying we don't have areas we can't cut. I mean, because I think anytime you say that, you're fooling yourself, but got a revenue issue. I mean, and that's, I think, you look back at the last 2 or 3 budget years, you know, it's been, revenues have not just a little bit missed projections, but a lot been way off. So, hopefully, you know, if I'll start seeing what I can cut a little bit here and more there right now, and then, you know, maybe by February, I was gonna say, you know, Walmart's gonna rock the roof and we're good to go. If not, you know, if we have to cut another 30,000 a month, that's tough. That's getting into big time decisions. So.
Well, I would almost suggest that you go ahead and try to, even though I know like you have lots to do and adding one more play, but go ahead and focus on those areas, look at it, get the information, and be ready. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have to cut quick come February and March if we hadn't met it. So go ahead and do your legwork, hope for the best, but reality is, if we're on this track, we're gonna have to find ways. And so y'all are the miracle workers. I mean, look at last year.
Well, the thing about it is they've done a year of this. So we're gonna start,
It's going,
we're gonna head up where we can't do any better.
unless you really make some major decisions. And then, you know, it may be forced to. You know.
Like what he mentioned a while ago, we'd love to have another person in HR and benefits. and
Oh, I
that.
could see lots of areas.
But we're toughing it out. We can't, we don't want to bring it to you right now because we know we don't have the funds to finance it, so.
And this does not have a new fire chief in the projections.
Still doesn't have. Okay, so
You're
the
looking
longer I
at-
can go there, the better off we are.
Yeah, you're looking at 30,000, what divided by,
Yes.
So,
So that goes all the way to, June.
and we had it in the original budget.
I understand.
But we're just going by what I did on the payroll was just took what he did in October and put it into May for that 3 payroll month, and took November and put it in the rest of the month. So anything you do that's different from those 2 months is an additional thing.
Chief has actually agreed to stay on through the 31st of January. An extra month longer than he originally committed to. And then I possibly could bring a captain in to take his place as an interim.
That gets back to that appointing a,
well, no, wait,
Get that just
but in
figured
6
out.
months, we gotta do
Yeah.
something.
we could do it without hiring anybody. And that would save quite a bit, right there. I need to look at that plan.
I didn't even look at the applications until Wednesday afternoon.
But I would go ahead and contact those people and tell them that,
But that's the reason I'm looking at it, because Chief would like to have an answer in January, whether I'm going to pursue an outside person or going to pursue it from an interim type thing with current people we have employed. But it's hard, the problem there, and I agree with what y'all are talking about, it's hard to let somebody take another position and
Not
5 months later, they're considered, but maybe they didn't get to do the appointment. So it's gonna create a morale problem as far as I'm concerned. So, it's a tough decision. I'm looking at it from, whether we can afford to go that long or what, so.
Well, even,
And that's been in some of my delay tactics, and it's a tactic to save Tom money. You know, he and I discuss this frequently during the week. Some of those delay tactics have been, you know, to hold off from spending money, regardless of what fund it come from, you know, so. And in essence, this is our main goal, is to make sure we got enough money to pay the bills and make the payroll. So that is a tough decision right now.
well, I would look first at absolutely who has to have telephone, who doesn't. And I just bring them all back in. How did we used to do it before telephones became, everybody had one?
Everybody had one.
well, and you know, a lot of places, I mean, where I work, even with my, you know, part-time job, and I know my husband, but we just get, you know, a set amount, like they pay 30, you know, like when my husband switched over, he works for Davidson County. When they switched over, they let them keep their phones, but, you know, they added, you know, $35 to their paycheck. And then that way you don't have to worry about people going over, you don't have to worry about these extra, you know, costs, and they weren't paying, you know, somebody's, because realistic, you're gonna have a phone, you know, if you don't work. Yeah, you're gonna have some
So
kind
they
of.
picked up the telephone bill, but they gave them $35 or
Well,
whatever.
they were covered, everything was covered. But then, somewhere along the line, when they wanted to cut in the budget, they gave them, you know, a allowance, a telephone allowance. So, you know, they gave them $35, one paycheck a month to go for the telephone allowance. A lot of companies do that. I don't know, I just said $35. I can't really, I think they started as 50 and then cut it to 35. But you got to keep the phone, the city, you know, because you're implementing a new plan, so you kept the phone. And then you just got a, you know, an allowance for knowing that you're gonna use the phone. You know, maybe you keep your department heads or the crucial where they're on the plan, but all these other people that you know that aren't having, they go to some kind of, plan.
Well, and there's everybody except for one employee has a smartphone.
Everybody?
Everybody. Now, Mr. Hall and I don't, but,
But we don't have one.
I
Well,
don't
that
know.
can't possibly be necessary, can it?
Yeah.
Doesn't have one, you know.
Well, and I've talked to Sissy about it, and we've got some IT issues. I mean, and like you said, gotta say, that a lot of this is stuff that's we know we need to look at, but so many other things have taken priority ahead of it. So we're getting to it, and biting it. But Brandy and Susan do not have cell phones, but there is, and then the way Sissy's told me is that the police officers, it's almost like their computer when because they don't have a desk and they don't have this, but they do have computers in their cars, and I don't know how all that works, but I believe we can cut there. Now, as far as this Windstream phone system we have here, if you combine the Windstream and all cell bills, we've got $83,000 expense that I just have to believe we can cut. I don't know how far, but that phone system we have just drives me crazy.
How long was the contract for Windstream, do you
No, I don't know. That was,
remember? They talked about that for months, didn't they?
I want to say it was a couple of years, you know, like 3,
3-year contract.
yeah.
And the only other thing, just easy is people that live out of Fairview, we might could say, hey, we need to stop y'all driving,
Their cars.
and save that gas. And there's a lot of arguments, but
Pro and con on
I
that.
it's as a city, when it bottom line comes down to it, it's not taxpayers' responsibility to pay for them to and fro to work. Now, that's gonna be that people aren't gonna like it, but, that'd be another place to start.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you this. They may not like it, and it may be hard, and it may hurt for a minute, but it's better than losing your job. And it comes down to somebody's gonna have to lose their job. And it's not fair, so if we have to find ways to cut, it may be that these are things that we may have to look at. That's when it comes down to it, is so who do you pick, to go? So I think if everybody takes a little bit of the brunt and understanding that we're just trying to get out of a mess, and in the future, as we as money comes in, that we can then give some of these perks if we want to back, or, add some different stuff in. But I don't know. I mean, I understand that, I could compare a lot of government stuff just because, my husband worked there, for 30 years in law enforcement. They can't go past the line. They got to park it. It's a pain, have to go swap your cars and go and do it that way. And then he's had, where he got to take the car home too. So it's definitely going to hurt. And it may hurt having it all done at once because you're adding additional gas costs to people. And I don't know that you want to do both things at the same time, but I think you just need to come up with,
We'll just start easing into it and talking. I'll start talking, hey, chief, I'm looking, if projections keep staying, we're gonna have to start cutting. We may have to lose some folks, and I'm looking at ways. What do you think about? I'll just approach it that way. Try to get their input. I'm gonna leave the ultimatums to Mr. Hall. I mean, he But if we have to bring down the hammer, we'll bring it, but, I think the phones, there's gotta be, it might be a very but I just can't believe there's not areas we can save, and we have, believe it or not. Between, I think you go back and look at the two budgets before, we have cut the phone bill in more than half since then, so.
Yeah, I could say that several years ago, it was probably really out of control.
I bet you it was over $200,000.
Yeah.
That's part of, been our problem is
Oh, my goodness.
the whole employment of the city have been kind of spoiled.
Yeah.
Probably the top notch health program. If they needed something, they come to get a check right then, so, that's kind of how we've cut back on spending. We've slowed up, any of those. So now I think they're a little hesitant of bringing us a bill for something that.
They're probably scared.
Not to say that we're, are trying to scare them.
Yeah.
We're just trying to let them know the bare facts of everything.
Well, I think your biggest advantage is now everything's truthful. I mean, I think it was real hard for the last administration to work when, the employees didn't know how tight it was.
Right.
And so, of course, they were gonna come and ask for stuff. And if I had to go to the board, or if the city manager approved it, or if the board approved it, if they're not realizing, what jeopardy, this is what you get. And, so it's definitely gonna be hard, but there's just, and I know it has to be, if you've been here a long time and you're taking some of these hits, like the health insurance and stuff like that, I know it's frustrating. But in the long run, there are probably a lot of people that would jump to have the jobs here. So it's kind of like one of these things that, with the right selling the package and with hope that it's not going to, always be this way, that maybe if we could all just kind of take some of these hits. I mean, I apologized to Tom the other day, and I didn't even vote for the budget, but I apologized. I said, I'm so sorry we put you in this position that you're having to, worry like this. And it is, it's, as a board, y'all had a huge,
Mountain to climb.
yeah, I mean, it was just like, we barely got
Well, I
through
feel
a
like
hard
I
year.
feel like we're almost in the gutter, and I feel like we're fixing to start. And I tell you, if Walmart would just come through a little bit, just come through 50%.
Yeah,
I don't need anything more than that to make it work.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's still doable. I mean, it is, as long as,
But it's closer by far than it was,
Yeah.
that's for sure. Ms. Brooks has helped out so much.
Crack that whip.
But.
now she's gonna leave the hard part to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. Like I said, I want to. I feel like we're at the bottom right now, and it's really gonna be key that we get some money in the bank. That's key.
Well, and this is, I'm not for selling land. I'm not for just to balance our budget, but, there's things that we can look at too. I'm against it, but, I think we need to make every cut possible and, and we need to do whatever we need. I mean, like, even with this position, y'all said that y'all wouldn't fill any position if anybody left. Well, it's easy to say that, but it came down to a position that was really crucial for y'all. And then all of a sudden you're having to fill it. So,
Only good thing about that is we filled it with less money.
yeah, that's always good too.
So that's a good thing, but, in that position, it wasn't a great deal of less money, but it was, some, so.
And we've saved significant money because the fire chief stayed on for free.
Yeah, there's a lot of areas we've done well in, and I don't mean to. When I share my reports, I'm sharing the bad. and trying to explain it. But there's a lot of areas where it's, you know, you can actually see the good we've done, so.
Well,
but-
never apologize for being realistic. And the truth of it, somebody in your position needs to be realistic. We can always hope, but, you know, we need factual.
Well, let me tell you, if I'm gonna jump up on this, the first $150,000 sales tax, I get local sales tax I get, I'm gonna be doing a jig. I'm just, cause
All the way across
I
the table.
I really thought we'd be there in, you know, this, and I was telling Donna, she kept it low. She was up to 130 projection, and I'm taking it, and when we were doing this, I'm pulling it down to 120. I'm just sitting here going, come on. But anyway,
One thing I'd like to add to, Sharon has done a great job in building out these engineering fees. We've collected some of them already,
Good.
so, that's been a little bit of a help too, you know, so, and she's keeping a monthly tally on it, you know, if it come in, she's built, so, you know, every 100 counts, every 1,000 counts, so, she's doing a great job of helping us out there.
and that's the thing, that money was just laying there in the past, just laying there.
Yeah.
And no urgency to get it filled, you know. It's just been a big help, it really has.
So if Brian would move us on to B, I'll have an opinion about that
Did you
too.
steal my
Okay.
agenda?
We're going to new business 6B, discuss and or take action on the OpenGov website.
Well, my opinion is I would love to have it, but when we're talking about having to cut, I just can't, you know, I can't tell an employee, we're gonna take this away from you, and then turn around and spend it on an OpenGov website. That's my opinion.
And I 100% agree.
I would love to have it.
Somebody asked me my opinion before I can say it.
I mean, I've got 3 or 4 reasons why I'd like to have it, you know, and then probably the least is the PR boost it would give us, but I agree. I mean, how do you try to cut and then, and we've just started doing all the stuff on the website, and we haven't seen any, I mean, we haven't given that time to,
See how it's gonna work,
I
yeah.
mean, and there, it's all there. Now, I think in a year or two,
Maybe even next year, if Walmart comes through.
One thing I might add to that, believe it or not, I think the city manager's report is helping.
I think so too.
I don't know how many people complimented it the other night at the chamber dinner. So, as far as I can tell, we're the second city that's put that in effect. State. So,
Well, and I just looked up on it, huh?
Way to go.
but I'm beginning to get good compliments on it everywhere I go. Says city manager, but it wasn't my idea. I just fell in love with it when Tom and Brandy showed it to me, you know. It just so happened the next day I was in a meeting with the Goodlettsville mayor. Met him, you know,
Yeah.
but I had talked to him previously to that. And, you know, he says how much it's helped his transparency in his city and how much complaints anymore. That's a big plus.
in all the MTAS classes I go to, they said the perception the public has is any government has deep pockets and can do whatever, you know, that's just the perception.
Well, and I think you're gonna have, staff, y'all might wanna think about it, but you'll have an opportunity to make recommendations, and then I think the board are only taking what y'all are presenting and the information, so if you think there's not enough money, that might need to be, if, said, I mean, I think it's a great system, but we have to rely on the staff's opinion.
One of Tom's opinions on it that he really likes is because it has the last year's data. What we come into, not knowing anything, the next administration would have that to fall back on because the data would be there. That's one of the key things that you liked about it.
Yeah, I like everything about it, and one of the big issues we're gonna be looking at in the future is our IT strategic plan that I keep telling you about. Is we've got some software issues that we're paying big money for, and I feel like there's a lot better products out there, but one of the things that's an issue is all of our back data is buried with that company. And one of the things that just really interests me about OpenGov is if they can, that lady that we talked to, Brandy and I talked to, she used to work for MTAS, and she said, "Oh, I've worked with OpenGov. We can get it out. If we can get it out, I can dump it somewhere else and have access, and I can do 5-year trends, 10-year trends." Trend until we're blue in the face, which right now I can't do.
But there
Is
might
it
be a way.
web-based?
Hmm.
Is it web-based software
No.
you're using?
Yes. Well, no, it's server based.
Oh, that Scott McCoy could tell you how to get it out.
I was going to say, I bet there's a way.
He can't?
No, you gotta go through local gov. I'll talk to
I
him
have a
again.
consultant
Okay.
that I'll talk to about it. I
Okay.
bet she can get it.
Well,
I don't know that she'd get it for free. Scott would get it
I don't have
for
any
free.
money.
Yeah, that's the problem when it comes down to, I know, I think Tom was mentioning that the other day about how nice and, we would get the information. I did ask that question when he was on the phone, we would get the information back. But, all of a sudden you have a contract, you're paying it, you're committed to, an annual fee. And like you said earlier about not
You-
having money and
You
then.
realize we're paying $20,000 a year for the mess we're working at. Now, we're functioning, and it's state approved, and it provides the data in the format that
The service that you're using right now,
yeah.
so you can get rid of a $20,000.
Well, I'm thinking we can get something, I mean, I think I could run this city better with QuickBooks than what we
And is there a contract in that? Is it too late? Can we get out of this?
Well,
yet?
we don't need to do anything right now,
Yeah.
because that's scary, we're functioning. And and I have talked, my MTAS guru, Ralph Cross, happens to sit on the board for local gov. And so he's not really, he says, well, what you gotta realize is that is state-approved software. And, you don't wanna get in any, because they've got to get it right. And so the couple of things, like, of course, I just can't, I mean, it's, the TCRS retirement works pretty good, and and some of the other stuff that I have to do, but it's just such a
Well, then,
it's just a bad product.
well, then
Agree?
here's your solution. You wait till a new budget year, or when that contract's in, you replace it with your OpenGov, everything's fine, you get what you want, you save the city,
And it might take,
Yeah, but you've got to have something to download to that OpenGov. He'd have to have other software.
well, see, no, they'll, what I'm saying, once they get it pulled out of OpenGov, it'll be up there for us, I can download in our new software, in our new system.
Well, how long are we obligated to the $20,000 a year for the system you're using?
OpenGov can get it out. Somebody else can get it out.
Well, they'll have to work with local gov.
Oh,
And if I call them today, if I had someplace to put it,
Yeah, I say they could retrieve it the other night.
Well, actually, they told Tom that it could retrieve it.
You can retrieve it, but I can't work in it. They say if I go in and I can't have access, all I have access to is last year and this year to date. And for me to go into last year, I gotta go into a whole new, I've gotta go into a history window and go in and look at it. And, it's just, everything you do in it is just a pain.
So you can see the information, you just
From
can't
last
pull
year.
it. Oh, you can't, so you have nothing showing,
The only way I
All
can
the-
see back is to go in there on the server, and I can pull up a few reports off the server from further back. And I didn't know that till I was working with Scott McCoy. And I found out, and I was like, yeah, I can get you that. And, but it's not user friendly, and you can ask Susan, you can ask Brandy, you can ask, Sharon. Diane, anybody, and the thing is, it's just, at some point, we will want probably look at that real seriously. But like I said, we're functioning right now. It's scary because, you know, if you make a change, you know, you're gonna have a bump. Or we just had our first audit, you know, with me, and then of course we're only in the second year with them, so I don't want to get into a big change, and now I can't find my data, you know.
yeah.
So there's a lot of fear in that. Okay. All right, Brian.
Ready to
I'm
move
gonna
on?
hush.
We can move on to citizens' comments.
I've got a comment.
Uh-oh.
Ice cream tank.
Last Finance Committee meeting, I heard a comment that went something like, we don't really have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem. I heard the same comment tonight. Well, our revenue is predetermined. We don't have any control over our revenue, except maybe for these billings that you were talking about tonight. But our revenue is a function of how many people are going to shop at Walmart. We don't have control of that. The only control that we have is our spending. Now, I've heard 3 areas here just in the last few minutes that we've identified where we can change our spending. That was gas, telephones, and OpenGov software. The OpenGov software, I think, is fantastic. If I had an extra 30 grand, I'd probably give it to you, but I don't. So all of that to say is, let's not try to shift the attention onto something that we don't have control over, i.e., we have a revenue problem. That's not the vendors or the people that send us the revenue. We can't blame that on them because they're not giving us enough. We have to work with what they give us. All of that to say is that we just have to keep on. This committee has, I think, done a fantastic job. I'm a little prejudiced, but I think it's done a fantastic job. We're better off, at least in planning, as far as I can see, than we ever have been. So just keep doing what you're doing. We probably can't afford any fancy new software because we're probably going to have to live with what we have. But remember, we can only control what we can control. So, and it's probably going to get tight, but I'm with Walmart sending us a double check for the next 3 months. How's that?
That's great.
Thank you.
Take it.
I'd like to put something on this. I know I maybe shouldn't. I have a dog in the fight because I don't get any of the benefits of a full-time person. But if you don't bother their paycheck, the people out there will pretty well go along with you. But if you touch into their wallet, because some of these kids out here are barely making it. I work with a bunch of them. They were disappointed in 2%, but they got over it. The next thing they'll ask you, what is the leaders doing to throw their 2 cents in to help the budget? Because remember, our federal government's having a big problem, just a fight now, and they'll say all governments are the same. And I think Mr. Hall said morale. We got a good bunch of people, but we're about that close to having, and he sees it, some morale problems because they want to live and support their families. And you got to be real careful. I'm semi, whatever you call retired. I've been through this. But if you take something away that bothers a pocketbook, then I think they're going to point the finger back at you guys. What's the commission giving up? What's other people giving up above us? If you present it right, they will go along with you. Because most of them, I think Mr. Hall can back me up, like working for Fairview. They got good leaders, they work hard, but they don't make a lot of money, a lot of them don't, because they're starting out in life. But be real careful about that. I think you said something about the employees a while ago, to be careful.
Would doing the thing about the telephone that we talked about, would that bother them?
Well, I don't know, I use my own phone. I tell them I'm on a permanent thing that says get, all unlimited. So at the park, they say, can we use your cell number for people getting lost? It doesn't bother me. And I haven't, even at the school we had when I didn't use their school phone because I thought it was a waste of money because most teachers are like me. They got a permanent thing and I didn't get anything for it. The cell phones, I think there's certain people, like in the police department, that need them, but I got to leave that to you guys. That won't bother their pocketbook, I don't think. But you got to be real careful. First thing I'm going to ask is, Mayor, everybody giving up something for the same thing we're having to give up? And if they know you're doing something, hey, everybody's doing it. But if they feel that, we went over this thing before, Mr. Hall remembers, over the commissioners, a lot of people thought they were making too much money, they were getting paid too much stuff, and it was a big roar about, 7, 8 years ago, Mr. Hall?
Yes.
And that was a really big thing around town. And even the people that I knew up here working, they said, what they giving up? They're making more money, they ain't doing anything. We know better than that. You guys work hard. But you gotta be real careful. People out here don't think you do. But they know that if they need money, they're gonna come down to them and say, we're gonna cut something. They don't get much overtime anymore because of the budget. Used to, that took a lot of money out of pockets. So they gave up a lot, but be real careful. Like I said, I don't have no dog in the fight, because I don't get overtime, I don't care. I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. I've been that, yes ma'am. Was you gonna say
No,
something?
I was just gonna say, I mean, I understand it messes up morale, and you don't wanna mess up with people's money, but, at this rate, we're looking at letting people go if we keep it this path come March, and so then all of a sudden it's hard. Now, to give, you're saying, well, okay, let's take all the commissioners and only give them a $35, the ones that get it. Like, I don't have a cell phone, so I already gave up to the employees. But do the same for the commissioners. That would be across the board. I mean, I agree with you, but.
As long as they know you're helping, most people won't mind. I guarantee you. As long as they know everybody from top down has done something. And I don't know. I don't know what the budget looks like. I used to teach budget. I know it's harder in a city, but things may change. They may change.
It definitely is going to be another tough year. They've
Sure.
already had one. I hope when we get through the next one that it's gonna get better.
Well, it's sorry.
But-
Everybody thinks it's getting better. I'm serious. Most people say you're working real hard. That I know. They appreciate how hard the city is working to keep them working. And they understand that. But I think if you present it right, it'll happen. I like you. We can't determine revenue. No, you guys can't. You wish you could. But that's my 2 cents.
Well, and I know that Mr. Hogg can tell you there was times, as when he was on the commission, there would be city managers that they were not making their budget, they'd lace the person off. And, you know, and then all of a sudden, maybe if they pick back up, we're not really, we've never had to play those kind of, you know, scenario, because we did have a reserve, but it's a different ballgame when you don't have a reserve, you know. You're faced with challenges. I guess your other option is to raise everybody's taxes. So then those same employees that don't want to lose benefits are going to have to pay in taxes, you know, unless they don't live in the county.
But
But
they'll look at 2 cents better than $3, $4 out of it, if it's property tax.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, there's, eventually, everybody's, unfortunately, there's no, besides the revenue increasing, there's no easy way around. But, I mean, we're seeing positive things. It's just being prepared. Like,
Thank you for listening to me.
We appreciate your comment.
yeah, I mean,
We even appreciate Mr. Brooks.
He said he was prejudiced, though, didn't he?
I think you did put that in there. We'll move for adjournment. Any
I
other,
won't say
oh,
one
another
thing,
discussion?
if you don't mind. Just one
Absolutely.
second. Larry mentioned about morale. I think the last year, the morale has really improved. And, you know, I know we're looking at a bleak picture here, but they've been top-notch in handling it. I know some of them got a pretty good hit on the benefits package as far as the health insurance, but we haven't lost anybody, thank goodness. Nobody's quit us, and, you know, that shows their dedication to the city that they work for, and you know, they love working here, and that's the opinion that I get from all of them. And, you know, Tom and I, sometimes we do paint a bleak picture, but we're not doing it purposely. You know, we're trying our best to make sure that they have a job and that they have a paycheck, you know, and, you know, so that's just what I'd like to put on the record tonight, that I appreciate every one of them. I actually love every one of them because they've embraced me, and that's been the good thing, you know, so.
I
Anyway.
wouldn't exactly call it bleak. I feel pretty good about it, so.
Well, and the good thing is, I feel like, I mean, from my standpoint, I'm going at it with my eyes open. Whereas this time last year, I had no idea where we were at all. And you know, it's, you learn real quick to not listen to anybody and just base your opinions on facts and what's really happening. And so it's been I see trends, and I feel in my gut that in a couple months I might be doing a jig.
And we're gonna call the TV station to have it.
It's just like the additional things that Sharon's doing, picking up on those kind of extra charges that were, you know, that's part of what everybody's doing to help, you know, so fortunately hers is in where she can bill these charges out and get them refunded back to us. But the other people are doing their share by cutting what they can. I know sometimes they say in Public Works, I'm trying to save as much money as possible. You know, so we've actually got a system out there now where we don't have to use as much salt. They've actually made a brine thing for a little hardly nothing that we can use now. And so that's gonna save us a whole lot of money in salt, you know, so.
That they also bought that chip dust
Yeah,
that can carry the salt
a lot more.
about double.
So all the divisions are doing everything they can to help us, you know, so, as far, you know, hopefully that we won't have to say anything about a bleak picture, but, you know, I'm just thankful that we do have a Walmart here that we can go back on, but there's other businesses here that help us out too. It's not just Walmart.
And if anybody that works for the city sees something that we're doing that definitely could be done cheaper or more efficient or whatever, please speak up.
Well, and even off of the city employees, I don't think anybody has any doubt that they're not doing their part and doing an excellent job and haven't, I mean, they've really had to cut and do changes and stuff like that. I mean, I feel horrible for the fact that a single employee took such a hit versus the family, too. I mean, I'd like to look for ways to make it a little more even, because we value our single employees just as much as we do, the family. So there's definitely things that we definitely can look into and try to make better. But it's just, when you don't know
That's the hard part.
the income, all we can do is speculate. All my goal was to say, find those rays, because if it comes, you're going to have to do it quick. So do your homework now and where we can go, because it may not add up to a whole lot. You know, we need to be able to sit down and say, is taking not allowing them to take the car out of the city limits are, you know, it may be X amount of dollars, but in the value of what it is and somebody's life or the service we're providing, then, you know, we're going to have to weigh that out. And so, you know, if you do your homework, you do your research, when we come down to it, you know, we'll have that, you know, factual information to base a decision on where to cut. That's all my suggestion was. I mean, you know, a lot of other governments go through the same problems, so get those suggestions.
Let me bring up a couple of other things too. Let's just take, for instance, you know, there was an issue about me having a vehicle. Since Frank come on, I give up the vehicle they furnished me with. Well, Randy in the garage figured out a way that we could use a car out there that he could fix up for Roy to have. And then they would furnish me back with the city manager's car, which we've used a time or two. I prefer my car to commute back and forth or ride around here because
No,
I
I
get in
have
and out
a
of it. but-
chauffeur. I haven't never used
but-
it.
But, you know, he's the one that come up with that idea, so we didn't have to purchase a vehicle, you know, which, you know,
Somehow you slid one my way. I don't know how that happened.
I think he figured out that same way too. But then, down in the police department, all these vehicles that were sold, from the confiscation, whatever, how you want to word it, from the drug fund and everything, that brought in about $40,000. But then also in the same thing, we sold some other stuff out there, like an old mower, an old tractor that the engine been blowed on for 11 years. We got almost $10,000 worth of money that we sold on local gov, not local gov, but gov deals. Gov deals. And we have about several out there right now that we're going to be putting back up the same way. So that's part of what they're doing to help us out. They're letting us know this is not doing us any good. Can you
Well,
sell it? You know?
yeah, and the police is looking every way. They're trying to use that drug fund to the best of their ability. You know, they've got a ban that they found that a deal is only a deal if you can afford it. And, you know, you find a way, take it out, you know, it's a legitimate drug fund purchase, and I'll back it because they'll probably save, well, they can, how many prisoners did you say they had last court? They brought.
16. Oh, was it 16?
16, yes.
They took 3-4 trips.
Right.
And, you know,
That's gonna be saving money right there, but the thing that's been happening, we've been having to transport female prisoners and male prisoners in the same vehicle. That's not good.
And it's got a,
Now, this one we can separate.
and we're getting probably about what'd he say, about a $10,000
Drop in price.
break in value to what we're paying, so, anyway, I think, especially long-term, I think it's excellent. And I think it's a very fiscally sound move, but anyway, I'm ready to go if y'all are.
Move to
I am,
adjourn.
I'm hungry.
Move to adjourn.
So moved. I mean, second.
Thanks for letting me sit up here. I probably would not recommend it for next time because you'll get too much of an opinion.